Hi, my name is Brandon, and I'm an alcoholic and addict in recovery. Today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is what do social events look like when you're in recovery? What do you do at social events where you used to just drink all the time and now you're going to be sober? That's kind of scary. How is it going to work? And will you just suffer through those events, looking at everybody drinking and wishing you could join in? And I am here to offer you some assurance that fortunately for me and millions of other people who have found recovery, we do not have to suffer at these events. In fact, these kinds of events are even better in recovery and as sober people who don't drink than they were when we were drinking and in our addiction. Same goes for any other drugs that you used to engage in socially. And so today I want to read some from This Naked Mind by Annie Grace, where she does a really good job of summing up the reason that we feel like drinking and drugging is part of a social situation, and then why it might be different if you are able to go through the steps to a good, solid recovery to find yourself at a very peaceful place where being engaged in social situations without drugs and alcohol feels more like a blessing than a burden. So just to get us started, I'll read some from her book. She says, "Before you ever drank a drop, you did not need alcohol to enjoy yourself socially. But as you grew older, you observed everyone around you drinking in social situations. In fact, you almost never observed any social situations without alcohol. You assumed alcohol was a key ingredient for a good party. You began to drink socially, and initially you probably still didn't find alcohol vital to socializing. Since alcohol is part of practically every social situation, soon you only experience social situations with alcohol. Eventually, you developed a small dependence and you missed alcohol if it wasn't available. Your experience confirmed your observations. You didn't quite have as much fun if you didn't drink. You concluded, yes, alcohol is vital to social life." I started drinking socially at the very end of high school, and then in college, drinking was at basically every social situation that I encountered. And I didn't understand why you would want it any other way. Alcohol seemed to help loosen people up. It seemed to help keep the party going. And everybody just seemed to have a better time when we were drinking. Now, I did notice throughout this time that there were people who would abstain. Maybe they were, in fact, I went to a school where there were a lot of athletes who during their regular seasons did not drink alcohol. And it was interesting to see that they still seemed to be able to have a good time even though they weren't drinking. I very early on found that very difficult. And so I saw that other people were still able to enjoy social situations without alcohol. And I think that helped me when I moved into that place on my own. I think that helped me realize that it is possible to enjoy social situations when you're not drinking. And in fact, I have found that social situations are even more enjoyable. Now let's read some about what happens in these social situations. We've become accustomed to drinking on these occasions. We didn't need alcohol to enjoy them before, but now we've developed a habit of drinking. We've intertwined within our minds that the alcohol and the joy we feel from the occasion. This is for a few reasons. So that's really important. We get to this point where we feel like any kind of pleasure we get from the drug is intertwined with the pleasure we get from the social situation. Yet it's important to remember that we were involved in social situations prior to drinking that we enjoyed without alcohol. So this shows us the joy from socializing, the joy from social situations cannot come from alcohol and drugs alone. That joy exists without them. And it's important to realize that. The idea that drinking enhances experiences has been ingrained in our conscious and unconscious minds through advertisements. We reconfirm this when we develop an almost unnoticeable physical dependence on alcohol or other drugs. Alcohol can take 10 days to fully leave your system, and your body physically craves a drink. You probably don't even notice this, or you just notice the feeling as a drink sounds good. The relief of feeding this craving makes alcohol seem as if it is contributing to your enjoyment of the occasion. The mental belief that drinking enhances the occasion creates a placebo effect. This makes two things happen. One, since you believe alcohol is helping you have fun, it does. Your mind is incredibly powerful. Two, if you skip a drink, you feel deprived. You believe you are not enjoying yourself as much as you would with a drink in your hand. You come to believe that you won't have fun without a drink. This cycle continues, and as drinking is addictive, you eventually create a physical addiction. At this stage, once you are addicted, you will feel tormented when you do not allow yourself to drink. How can you know this is true? You don't have to look further than people who don't drink at all to realize it's not the alcohol that makes social situations amazing. Think about a school dance. There was no alcohol, yet it was fun and exciting. You scoped out girls or guys, enjoyed looking at everyone's outfits, and spent social times with friends with no parents allowed. And that's what I have to remind myself, is that I was involved in all sorts of social situations growing up where I really enjoyed myself without alcohol. And once it got introduced, it wasn't until I started to associate the good feelings from alcohol with the good feelings that already exist from having fun with friends. That's when I started to feel like the two were intertwined. But they're not really intertwined, they're just happening at the same time. And so when I got sober, one of the things that happened, and let me back up. When I was drinking, one of the things that happened was over time, I was not, in the beginning when I was drinking in social situations, I was drinking as much as anybody else. You know, if I got too drunk, well, there were 15 other people that were too drunk with me. You know, if I did something stupid, there were 15 other people that did something stupid, and we could all laugh about it. As time went on, that changed. And as time went on, other people started to drink less, and I started drinking more. And social situations started to become a burden. They started to become difficult and stressful because I would go into these situations worried that I was going to do something stupid. And I started actively trying to avoid social situations because they represented times when I could not drink as much as I wanted to without risking making a fool of myself or doing something that I didn't want to, or getting in a situation where I didn't remember what had happened. And that's what happened a lot too, is that I would go to a party and I would get too drunk and I couldn't remember what happened, and I would have to ask someone else, "Hey, did I do anything stupid last night?" And that was a terrible feeling. I can't tell you how nice it is now to go to a party and come home, and not only do I get to wake up the next morning without a hangover, knowing what happened when I went to bed, but I can even remember people's names that I met and talked to for 5 minutes, you know. And so I think when I started to get sober, I very quickly felt a relief of this stress that I had been feeling at social situations. I entered a place where I really did not want alcohol at all. I was okay if other people drank it. And from the beginning, my wife drinks, and so I was around it. It was in our house from the beginning. And I told myself, I'm going to focus on me, what I need to do. And if there's alcohol around, that's fine. I'm not going to let that bother me. And I have found my social life to be so much richer and rewarding, more rewarding in sobriety than it ever was when I was in my addiction, because now I go to a party and I don't just stand around trying to get drunk and hoping that someone will talk to me. I go and make conversation. Feel genuinely interested in other people, which that wasn't the case when I was in my addiction. When I was in my addiction, I just wanted to talk about myself. And I spent most conversations trying to direct the conversation to things that I liked, things I found interesting, and really waiting for people to ask me questions about myself. Now, in social situations, I love going to people I don't know and getting to know them and asking them questions about themselves and what they do and what they find interesting in life. And I've met some really cool people that way. And I look around at all the people who are drinking, and there are little glimmers of thoughts in my head about it would be nice to join them in that. But usually it's only when I hear them talking about liquor or booze, and talking about how good the drink that they're having tastes, or talking about the different kinds of drinks they like. And when that happens, I just remind myself, talking about drugs is not that interesting. And even though there may be an unconscious part of my mind that kind of hears that and says, oh, I'd like to be a part of that, I know consciously I don't care about what flavor of whiskey you like best, or what are the tasting notes that you're smelling in this. I don't care. That's not interesting conversation to me. You want to talk about, things like your favorite TV show, art, books, stuff like that, I'm all in. But talking about booze and the different stuff you like to drink, it's not that interesting. And so what I find is that being in these social situations now, it's such a rich place to be when you can actively engage in people. And once you start asking people questions about themselves, very quickly you find that you're making friends left and right. And so I want to assure anybody who's worried about what does it look like to be social without drinking and drugs. For me, it's looked way better, and it's been an awesome experience. I have a social event later this morning that I'm looking forward to so much, because there's people there that I've only met a few times, but since the last time we talked, I've either watched a movie they recommended to me, or read a book that they recommended, and I want to talk to them about, what I liked about it, see what they've done since then. And that's the kind of thing that I didn't do much of when I was in my addiction. And this particular situation is a kid's birthday party. And in my addiction, I would have been very uncomfortable going to a party where no alcohol was being served. It would have been a very anxiety-inducing situation for me. But now it's a situation that not only am I going to enjoy, it's actually going to relax me to be around friends who I love and care about. And once I am able to talk to them and see what's going on in their lives, that helps me get out of my space up here and really helps me to enjoy the people around me, which at the end of the day is one of the big things that life's all about. So I've gone on about this a long time today. I love this topic. If you have any questions about social situations, how to navigate them, how to deal with them, shoot them in the comments. I'd love to hear them. In the meantime, have a great day, and I'll be back tomorrow with more.